Welcome to the Jacksonville Momcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the real stories of local Jacksonville moms. Sponsored by Jacksonville Beach Moms, each month we'll cover topics to help you navigate mom life on the First Coast. Thanks for joining us as we tackle all things motherhood and more with a focus on the 904.
Today's episode is brought to you by our very own Jacksonville for Kids coloring and activity book series. Our first two books are already out and available on Amazon, and there's a third book that will be released next month. The first publication in the series, the Jacksonville Coloring Book, features 25 scenes from around the First Coast that kids and adults will love to color. Our second book, The ABCs of Jacksonville, is a coloring book geared toward younger kids that highlights some of our favorite kid-friendly activities in Jacksonville, from the Arboretum to the zoo. Both books are available to purchase on Amazon, but you can also get them on Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers as digital files that you can print yourself. These books make a great gift for a new family just moving to Jacksonville or your favorite Jacksonville kid. We'll put a link in the bio and a link in the show notes so you can order yours today. Welcome to episode 23. Today we have Elaine Dusetzina, who is a health and wellness coach, and she owns her own business. So Elaine, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Sure thing. Well, Shannon, thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor, and this is, I guess, like my second podcast interview. But yeah, so a little bit about me. I have two daughters. I feel blessed to have my two daughters. One is 8 and the other is 11. And I also have an incredible husband. He was in the Navy for 20 years. I always say recently retired, but it's already been 2 years. No, yeah, two and a half years since he retired. And we also have a dog that I like to run with. His name's Strider. He's a German Shepherd Lab mix. And so I also was in the military, in the Navy for 11 years. And that's where my husband and I met, back in San Diego. And I got out when I was pregnant with our first child and became a stay-at-home mom. So then transitioned to what I'm doing now. And my connection to Jacksonville is that I went to college here, Jacksonville University, and that's where I picked up an ROTC scholarship. It was kind of like in the back of my mind. It's like, how am I going to pay for school? Well, the ROTC, I was in JROTC when I was in high school. And so that was like something that I was aspiring towards. And luckily they had a scholarship that I can pick up as I was doing my studies there, and I was able to receive it. I applied for it and qualified. So grateful for that. And that's how I got started with my Navy career.
That's awesome. What a great, I didn't realize you graduated from JU. That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your work as a wellness coach, and give us a little background information about also, what a wellness coach is and what exactly you do.
Definitely. So I like to preface with my story on what led me to becoming a health and wellness coach. So after the Navy, like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I knew I eventually wanted to go back to work. And I've always been interested in fitness. You can see my medals in the back. Oh, well, you can't see that because we're on the podcast, but I love running. And so that was like the first thing that was in the back was that I wanted to do. I was thinking about personal training and maybe coaching runners, but I realized that I did like a contract with a nonprofit. It was the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And I was able to coach for a period of time to train the participants for a half marathon and a marathon. And during that time, I realized it wasn't really like the thing that I didn't like it as much, having to write the training programs. I like running myself. I didn't enjoy it as much. But later on that, I think it was just a few years after I had my second daughter, I went back. I went to a physical to my doctor's appointment and had a physical exam, and I've been missing it for the past few years just because I didn't want to go and didn't make time for it. And that's when I found out that you know how they do lab tests. Well, my blood glucose levels were a little too high for my comfort. It was nearing pre-diabetes levels. And also my triglycerides were like extremely high, like compared to how it was like when the last time I had it done. So I got very curious about it. And my doctor at the time wasn't concerned, which kind of troubled me. So I decided to do my own research, and it had something to do with insulin resistance, and that's what led me to. I was like, well, I need to look at what I'm doing with my health and how I'm taking care of myself, which I guess I wasn't taking care of myself enough, which I thought I was, but knowing those levels, just going to my exam, I knew that I needed to make some changes in my own life. And just from making those changes, I was able to bring my blood levels back to normal. And I was just fascinated with just how just making those small changes can restore our health or my health. And that's what led me to like looking at, what is out there. And I found out about health and wellness coaching, and it's more about behavior change. So I think we're all familiar with, because we get so much information from like the internet and from things we read and things we watch. We all know like how to like what we need to do, I think, to take care of ourselves, but it's the how. Like it's hard for some people to do that, and that's what a health and wellness coach does. And that's what I do, is that I provide that guidance and the support to my clients to get to where they are today, to where they want to be with regards to their health and well-being. And it's not like I don't tell them what to do. It's client-centered. So I believe that it's the client or the individual knows what's best for them. And it's just my role to bring that out. So bringing out that motivation, what their values are, like why is it important to them, and then helping them along the way to take the actions forward. So that's kind of a long story on how I became a wellness coach.
That's but I think it's an important story, because I think that a lot of women can relate to, I feel like, especially when your kids are young, you spend all this time when you're pregnant at the doctor, every month, twice a month as you get closer, every week, and then you have a baby. Okay, you're good. And then you're busy raising a little human. So you don't always follow up with your health. And so I think that every mom out there can relate to that, and that it's so important to not do that to yourself, that it's important to take care of yourself also.
Exactly. And that's exactly, what happened to me, is that, doctor's appointments after doctor's appointments. Like my daughters were sick a few times during the year, and it's like, I'm just so tired of going to the doctor. So yeah, definitely.
And then along with that, if you're a stay-at-home mom, sometimes you don't have childcare, so you can't even, it's so hard to schedule time for yourself anyways, to get to, the grocery store, and then to take time to go make your own doctor's appointment is just a whole nother set of things you have to deal with.
Exactly.
So who do you typically work with? Do you typically work with men, women? Do you ever work with families to try to, ramp up health and wellness? Tell us a little bit about that.
I usually work with women. I'm just drawn to women moms like me. It's just because of my personal experience. But currently, like my focus right now is doing it's a group program, and I have an independent contract with a nonprofit, which is still back in San Diego. So I'm just kind of continuing the work here since it's a virtual program. And so most of the people who participate in the program are women, and some are men. So I feel more comfortable connecting with women, but, once in a while, I can connect with men as well. And then from my experience in the military, I mean, it's, I've always worked with men, and it's mostly men anyway. So maybe I just did that because of that transition to becoming a mom. I just felt more connected to women and moms. And I like to say I like to work with selfless women who have hearts of service, because they just like to continuously give to others and just don't find enough time to give to themselves. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that, those type of women. So.
And so how does a typical coaching session work with you? You mentioned the group program, but if someone signs up for, one-on-one coaching or individual coaching, how does that work?
Yeah, so the way the coaching structure works is that the first session is usually what's known as a foundational session. So it takes about an hour to an hour and a half. And what we do is we spend time on a lot of exploration and developing awareness. So exploring what's most important to that individual, whether it's family or work or service, what maybe they're doing community service, and how is that related to their health and well-being? How is, if they're not taking care of themselves and not taking care of their health, how does that affect what's most important to them? And then we talk about, we do a lot of discovery work where we talk about, what is your strength? What are your strengths? Because it's important to highlight those strengths, especially when the person or the individual is having a difficult time making those changes, to just kind of maybe that person is, one of their strengths is, let's say they're very committed to, serving others. It's like, well, you have that commitment. How can you draw from that strength of commitment to commit to yourself? So just asking a lot of questions and to discover what that is for them. And then part of this foundational session is coming up with what is known as a wellness vision. And this is what that individual desires or hopes for themselves in the future. So what do they see themselves doing? Who do they see themselves as becoming? And what behaviors that is contributing to their health and well-being, what do those look like for them? And so having that wellness vision, and I like to suggest that it's written down so that it can be something that either is, on your desktop or on your fridge, something that is a reminder of why. And this is that questioning, the motivation, why are you doing this, or why is it important to you to make these changes in your life for your health? So having that wellness vision. So an example would be I'm taking care of my body and mind so I can handle whatever life throws at me. I'm eating nutritious foods and moving my body every day so I have the energy to serve others well. That's part of what mine looks like. And so you have that wellness vision, and then we come up with what the action, from that vision to how to translate that into action, because it's hard to sometimes figure out how am I going to get there? So so having those behavioral goals that you can say, hey, this is what I want to do in the next 3 months. How am I going to get to getting into the nitty gritty of what it means to taking care of my body, mind. What does that look like for that person? So yeah, so it's a long drawn out, what sounds like it's drawn out session, but it goes pretty fast for that. It's an hour to an hour and a half. And sometimes I can even break that down to 30 minutes in case a person doesn't have time. So we just meet 30 minutes each week to just develop that vision as well, those actionable goals. And then the follow-up sessions is for, connecting with my client, connecting with the individual, and doing the check-ins for accountability and support so that they're able to work towards those goals that they set for themselves.
I love what you said about focusing on strengths, because you think of women as caregivers a lot of the time, and yet you never ask, are you taking care of yourself? Are you, you're always nurturing those around you. Are you nurturing yourself in the same way? I love that you highlight that. I think that's so important. So we've talked a little bit about your coaching for a healthier lifestyle. Talk to us about what exactly constitutes a healthy lifestyle. Like, what are some things you're looking at that would be considered, positive, healthy habits, healthy outcomes you'd like to see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So a healthy lifestyle, I like to use the lifestyle medicine approach. And as part of my becoming certified as a health and wellness coach, I also went through certification with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And basically, lifestyle medicine as is defined as using evidence-based approach to treating and reversing disease by replacing unhealthy behaviors with positive ones. So that's how the American College of Lifestyle Medicine defines it. And they're an organization that provides training as well for health professionals, but the doctors that would like to use lifestyle behaviors as a preventative measure, even treatment. There's been research that's been done that some can be reversed, the chronic diseases that we see, like diabetes, heart diseases, with lifestyle, this positive lifestyle behaviors. So it's there's 6 areas. The first one is healthy eating habits, and basically just to focus more on like wholesome plant foods. So I know there's different eating philosophies out there, but I think a lot of the philosophies can agree on like eating less processed, eating more like real wholesome foods that comes from the ground. So that's one area. The next area is movement, physical activity, just finding anything that will move your body every day in a consistent basis. And it doesn't have to be anything that's extreme, even just walking, gardening, even cleaning. Those are things, just making sure that you're moving your body every day. There's sleep, getting good quality sleep, stress, having those healthy stress coping strategies. Social connections, that's another important thing as well. Isolation has been something that's been kind of brought up with regards to the pandemic, and how we've kind of like socially isolated ourselves because we all had to stay in, and it has affected a lot of people's mental well-being with regards to that. So it's important to make sure even if in the past when we were socially distancing, to still make those connections over Zoom, or making phone calls with your friends and your family, and just being able to do that. And then the last area that lifestyle medicine focuses on is substance abuse. So just limiting alcohol intake, trying smoking cessation. So those are like the 6 areas that constitutes a healthy lifestyle.
Very interesting. And who would you say, have you found any trends to see who needs a boost a little bit more when it comes to leading a healthier lifestyle, like men versus women, young women versus older women? Like, do you see any trends in what you do?
That's something that I can't answer the question. I don't like to generalize. So I feel that, just for myself, I'm going to answer it for myself. Like, as we age, I think we start to focus more on our health, because we start to, to feel like the difference. Like when we were younger, we can eat whatever we want, or, drink alcohol, I don't know, whatever, during those times. And it doesn't affect us as much, but then like as we age, we can feel the difference. So maybe that I also think perhaps that the people that don't take the time to pause, like they're so like busy bodies, they're just so busy, like we've talked about, as moms, like we're so busy taking care of our kids and just like running them to different activities, and so just not having that time for ourselves. So that I feel that we also need a boost with regards to living a healthier lifestyle. But I can't say there's like trends. Maybe I need to look it up. But yeah.
That's good. And I would totally agree. I think as you age, and I'm not talking like 80 years old, but like I'm in my mid 40s and there are days I get out of bed and I can feel that I, did something yesterday that I haven't done in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if somebody listening today wants to make one small change to kind of start on a healthier trend and healthier lifestyle, what would you recommend? What is one small thing people can do to kind of, become healthier?
So I like to ask the question, what are you ready, willing, and able to do? Because as a coach, just from my standpoint as a coach, I can't like tell you this is what you need to do, because every individual is different from what they're experiencing in their own life. So what are you ready, willing, and able to do today? Is it getting more sleep? And how also like what do you see as something that would benefit you the most? And like I said, maybe it's more sleep. You're feeling tired during the day because maybe you're anxious at night and you can't get that good quality sleep. So that's just like, I like to ask questions instead of making recommendations. And that's like a coaching approach, because there's like a distinction between what I would say a health consultant, where I would say, okay, well, you need to do this. So I need you to, eat vegetables, or go for a walk for 20 minutes, or get 8 hours of sleep. So that would be like what a health consultant would do. But then a health coach would ask those questions like, what are you ready to do today? Like, what is that small step that you're ready to do? So I'm going to kind of like give you, or what do you think will be beneficial to your health, or what gives you more energy, or what would help you feel better today? I think every person already has that answer from within, and that's my role, to just bring it out.
And I would bet that you have a high success rate, because when you put the ball in that person's court and make them have ownership of it, it really, first of all, I would feel like it requires you to really do some internal thought and really look at yourself and your habits. But it also kind of makes it your responsibility. I mean, it's, if I say I want to change my eating habits, then that's me saying that, not you saying you need to change your eating habits.
Yes, exactly. And that's the power of autonomy. People don't like to be told what to do, and they have the choice to whether to do it or not, and doing it in their own way that works best for them. So doing that exploration, and then setting those goals surrounding that, what you're able to do. So,
and do you find that people prefer to work on maybe one of those 6 elements at a time, or do they kind of take a more holistic approach to say, I'm going to reduce my alcohol consumption, and I'm going to try to get to bed early, and I'm going to eat more vegetables? Or do you find people that are like, for the next 3 months, I'm just going to try to take a walk, like that's all I can handle? Right. Like, do you see a difference in those?
So in the past individuals I've worked with, they do focus more on like eating habits and movement, and both at the same time, because they kind of just like are kind of like connected. But so people like to focus on one thing at a time. And that's a good thing, because you don't want to feel overwhelmed. So just like taking those small steps, instead of like, okay, I have to do this, and this, and this, and they become overwhelmed. They're like, well, I kind of didn't do that, because so I always try to ask and say, what's your confidence level that this is going to happen, or you're going to be able to do this week, or and they can, it's like, well, I'm not sure about that. So I'm saying, well, do you want to maybe just focus on one goal for the week, just to build that confidence. And once you have that confidence, then you can move on to other things. So focus on one thing at a time.
That totally makes sense. So let's go back to where you told us about your doctor visit after not having gone to the doctor. And do you find that it's common for women to put off those regular or I guess actually women and men, do you find that it's common for people to not keep up with their regular health exams?
So I actually looked up this one, and I found research that actually men are less likely to go to their annual exams. I was thinking about this and saying, oh yeah, it's kind of true, because I've had to like urge my husband to go to go to the doctor. But so I mean, I guess another individual thing, right? I know for myself, it took me a while to get to that doctor's visit, but then once I did, and I realized that I had a health risk back then, I made sure I was going every year, so I know exactly what's going on inside my body. Because I mean, we can think that we're healthy. Like I thought I was doing the right things, but like that the blood, the blood tells you, like if you're doing the right thing, if you're balanced, if there's something going on inside your body that you're not aware of.
And you don't have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable, but I'm curious, when you had talked about your doctor not being concerned, did you end up finding a new doctor, or did you how do you recommend people deal with if you have concerns and maybe you're not being taken seriously, or you feel like something's being missed?
Yeah. My husband was still in the Navy, so we had a Navy doctor, and I guess I could have changed doctors, but yeah, so I think part of it is that because I wasn't I did not have a diagnosable condition. And I think, some doctors are trained in that way, where there's once there's a diagnosable condition, then there's a prescription for it. And so, yeah, I mean, I would get a second opinion or do the research on your own as well. Just take ownership of your health. So doctors are busy. They only, have so much time to spend with you. So that's why, the role of health and wellness coaches and other health practitioners that are out there who can help support the role of health professionals are important, because they can be there to just provide that guidance and support. So it's kind of like, it's tough, right? Because when we go to the doctor, that's where we expect to have answers. But from that experience, I know that sometimes, while that it is my responsibility, I felt that it's my responsibility to find my own answers at the time. And I was able to do that. So
talk to us a little bit about your time in the military. First of all, I think you're my first mom, former military member. So that's super exciting for us. But how did that kind of help prepare you to become a wellness coach? I mean, you talked a little bit about the, working with men, and now you work more with women, but how did that experience really lend itself to now becoming a coach?
Yeah, so I was in the Navy. As a naval officer, I served on naval ships and took on different leadership roles. So yeah, I did. I mean, I think part of it is just working with different types of people, different demographics, different ages. So just being able to learn how to relate to others, I think was helpful. And the other part of it, I think, is just the business side, just being able to have that resilience. Running a business or having a business isn't easy. Feels like I needed to have a tough skin for that, and it feels like that's what, when I joined the military or joined the Navy, that's one of the things that I developed, is having a tougher skin, because as a kid, I was a very sensitive kid, and I got very emotional. Just, I don't know, just little things got me, I cry very easily, but I think just being in the Navy just made me tougher. And another thing that helped me is having the GI Bill, which helped finance my education. So I went back to school because I wanted to learn more about health promotions and exercise science. I did an online program, and part of that was also they had a wellness coaching concentration. That's mainly why I chose the program. So just having that GI Bill to finance that helped me with launching my own business. So, and again, as a veteran, they have all this veterans programs. And back in San Diego, they had, I was part of the Rosie Network, which is a nonprofit organization that helps veterans and military spouses, which I guess I was both at the time, to launch their businesses. So they were offering like different courses on how to do that. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. So you talked about your, the 6 areas that you kind of focus on, and most of them are physical well-being. Do you do a lot of focus on, other ways you can be more healthy?
Yeah, like I think stress is like affects your mental well-being, and that's something that I've worked with one of the individuals in the past, and perhaps what also can contribute to prediabetes or let's say insulin resistance, because of just the way the hormones work with regards to cortisol. When you have chronic stress, when you have high levels of cortisol, that also causes high levels of glucose to pump to go into the bloodstream. So you have high levels of glucose in your bloodstream, and which can eventually lead to prediabetes or type 2. So yeah, so one of the clients I worked with in the past, we just talked about her stress levels and how it was a family issue that she had. So just working through that, and how she can have the healthy coping strategies, whether it was going out for a walk or doing mindful breathing, just those different strategies. The other thing was, I guess it would be part of mental well-being as well. Just like being one of the other moms that I worked with, she wanted to be more present for her kid. Like she feels like every time, like she would just be upset, and so she just wanted to be just like present and calm, and so yeah, so at times that can be the focus as well. So yeah, so whatever the client feels would be most beneficial to their well-being, will address whatever is in their heart or in their minds.
Perfect. And so let's talk about COVID. You touched on it a little bit with the, kind of being removed from social situations, a lot of stress, anxiety the last 2 years, a lot of people having to cope with a lot going on, financial issues for people who may have lost their jobs. What have you seen? Have you seen an uptick in people that are trying to become healthier and trying to really make their wellness a priority? How do you feel like COVID has kind of impacted your business and also impacted like the health and wellness field?
Right. Well, as far as my business, it didn't go so well.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe because I think it's part of it's because of me. I was my own barrier, and I was more focused on, my family, and also our transition out of San Diego to here. So that was like what led to our transition. But on the other hand, I think that it just elevated the awareness of self-care. I think I've been hearing the word self-care a lot now, with regards to just taking care of ourselves and how important our health is, to take care of our immune system, and how we can be resilient against, viruses, and just like having that healthy lifestyle intact with, the healthy eating habits and the exercise. And there's been studies out with regards to like how exercise, I think it was like exercise was able, like with a group of people who were exercising, experienced less severe symptoms of COVID. So there was research coming out of it of how important a healthy lifestyle is, not just, due to COVID, but anything that comes in the future, any type of virus, of how we can protect ourselves just by practicing those positive behaviors.
I also saw recently, and if I can find it, I'll link it in the show notes for our listeners. They're starting to look at the people's sleep habits and who got COVID and who had symptoms and how well rested you were and how, if that impacted it. And I thought that was a very interesting take on, I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see some very interesting data come out as more studies are done.
Yeah, and it's all interconnected. All of the lifestyle behaviors that I discussed, when you don't get enough sleep, that there's been a study that it can raise your blood glucose to diabetes levels, just your body is just trying to go back to like making it more balanced. And so when you don't get enough sleep, it gets so wacky. It's like giving y'all like this symptoms like, hey, what are you doing? So
yeah, the whole thing is very, very interesting. So you're a mom and you mentioned you have 2 daughters. As a mom, what are some things you can do to start teaching kids some of those healthy habits early on? And is there anything you do with your own kids?
Yes. Well, so every meal I always have fruit and vegetable on their plate. And I let them know that we eat, this types of food because it's good for their body, it's good for their brains. But I don't, if they don't like it, I just ask them to try it. And sometimes they surprise themselves and say, oh, this is pretty good. And sometimes they're like, I don't like that. But, their taste buds evolve. And so I just keep putting different types of vegetables on their plates. I mean, they're very good with fruit. They like a lot of different types of fruit. And as far as like physical activity, we like to go out as a family, on walks after dinner. I ask my kids they want to go for a walk when I go for a walk with our dogs, just getting them, making sure they're active and just talking about how this strengthens our bones. Just talking about the benefits of like physical activity, healthy eating. When my daughter gets stressed, and they teach this at school too, to like make sure they take the deep breaths. And I know my younger daughter used to do yoga. Like she actually recorded a video of herself doing yoga, which is so funny. But just like being able to calm yourself down. Just modeling for them, making sure that those things are available and just helping them when they're having a hard time. It's just like being able to handle the stress like at school or with friends or whatever it is that comes their way, just building those some resilience strategies. Yeah.
I love that you said that you use that kind of self-talk, excuse me. We eat this, don't eat your vegetables because I told you to, eat your vegetables because they're good for your body. And that what a great way to get them thinking about, why we eat certain foods and not just because mom says I have to eat it because it's good for my brain.
Yeah, and I'd look up like the vitamins. It's like, okay, so this has this vitamins, which helps this part of your body or this. Yeah, so
if someone wanted to get started working with you, talk me through a little bit about how they go about getting started.
So I usually like to do I call it discovery session, which is it's a free 30-minute call to find out more about who the person is, how I may be able to support them and what they're looking for in terms of support and guidance, and see if we are able to make a connection. And then I just talk about how I can be that support and how my role as a coach can help them with whatever they need to do with regards to their health and well-being.
Excellent. And we'll put a link to your website and your social media in our show notes so that if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can find you easily. Tell us, what is your favorite thing about being a mom in Jacksonville?
Well, we've been here. We just recently moved here. It's been 8 months since we moved to the St. John's area, and I mean, we love the beaches. We look forward to, it's getting warmer, but to summer when we can take the paddle boards out, spend more time at the beaches. I just got a membership to MOCA, which I realized they have admissions to the other museums. Just being able to explore the different museums, parks out there, and because it's a new place. I mean, I was here 20 plus years ago, so it's a new place for me as well, and as well as for the kids. And we just love the neighborhood, and they're so friendly. It's very friendly. There's kids out in the neighborhood, so the girls have adjusted to school already, and they have friends in school. So we're just grateful. We're so grateful to be here, and that we were able to relocate out here in Jacksonville.
Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you. MOCA has a wonderful summer camp if either of your girls are interested. So definitely look into that.
We've actually signed up for
that. Did you? See? That's fantastic. It's great. My kids have both done it and they absolutely love it.
Oh, cool.
So anything else before we close up for today?
No, I think, this was this is pleasurable. Thank you so much for having me. And, we just have to, just for the moms out there, just take the time to pause and even just think about what you can do today to help you nourish your health and your well-being. Never be afraid to ask for help and support. And there's so many different avenues that you can take. So yeah, definitely self-care. Make sure it's something that is a priority so that you are able to serve others in the best way possible.
Fantastic closing. Thank you, Elaine. And we'll be sure to put links to Elaine's website and her social media and everything else we talked about in our show notes. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode of Jacksonville Momcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us at Jacksonville Momcast on all the social medias for show updates and more information about our guests. To learn more about what you heard today, visit our show notes at jacksonvillemomcast.com. Thanks for listening.